Alrighty now, welcome, Unprofessionals. This is the first real episode of Unprofessional Development. This is the little part where we talk before we play the episode. So, this episode is more why we are teachers, not really about why we're doing the podcast. But the reason we're doing the podcast is because we think there's funny stories out there that teachers have, and we think you can learn from them. Okay, so I want to thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for giving us 5-star ratings. And thank you so much for sharing this with your friends, with your neighbors, on your social media. Just random people you're looking at in the grocery store and go, hey, do you listen to podcasts? You should try Unprofessional Development. Anyway. Some episodes it's just me and Tedisco rambling and cracking each other up. And some episodes, like next week, we will have guests. The theme song is still a work in progress, but we hope you find it catchy. Please enjoy this episode. Are we just going by to Disco and Mealy, or do we call you like Disco Duck and me Meals on Wheels, or do we come up with funny nicknames, or what do you, did you have any thoughts on that?
I'm fine just going by Tedisco. Tedisco's a fun enough name.
Okay, cool.
It doesn't need a lot of assistance. How about you, Mealy?
Mealy works for me. In fact, at one point, because so many people just know me as Mealy, and lots of people who around school know who I am, but don't know that what my first name is, I actually discussed with my wife legally changed my name to just Mealy.
Just a mononym?
Yes, I'm just Mealy. I'm
Bono
like
or Madonna.
Prince, exactly.
Honestly, that's how we refer to most teachers.
Yes.
I
guess I could be confused with Miley at that point, but...
I was working with a teacher. I worked with her for 3 years.
Right.
And at one point when my admin came over to me and said, oh yeah, just go talk to Nicole. And I went, who the hell is Nicole?
Well, when people introduce themselves to me, like it's a new teacher or new to me, and they go, I go, hello, what's your name? And they go, my name's Ralph. I'm like, I don't want to know that.
No, that doesn't help me.
I want to know what your last name is, so
right.
that when the kids tell me how much you suck, then I know who they're talking about.
Because that's what it is. Like, the kids will come up to me and say, I need to go talk to Mr. Brown. I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Right.
If I just know you as Roger.
So anyway, we'll be Mealy and Tedisco. Hopefully, as you listen, you can figure out which one's which. I don't know how similar our voices sound to whomever is
I think my voice
listening.
is far more grating, so it should be easy to pick out.
Okay.
All right, so...
I think mine's is kind of nasally, so...
So here's my first question, Mealy.
Sure.
Why are we here?
So we're here. We wanted to make a podcast. In case you probably clicked on something that said Unprofessional Development, real teachers telling real stories, which is a mouthful of a name, but I think it will get people sucked in, because most people I assume who are going to listen to this are going to be teachers, though if we get really big, then we'll just, we'll be as big as This American Life, but and
then we won't be teachers anymore. So
no.
That problem will take care of itself.
So, but we feel that there's stories to be told, and we feel that in general, we know that professional development goes from horrible to medium. And so this is something hopefully that will be both entertaining, and maybe you can find something that this is something, I can use that in my classroom, or I can use that when I do this lesson that I hadn't thought about that way to do that. So we want to be funny, we want to laugh, but we also hopefully at the end of the day, maybe there's some kind of takeaway that you get. But I think the entertaining is trumps usefulness. What do you think?
I fully agree. And I also think it's a good insight into people outside the teaching profession too. Because whenever I mention I'm a teacher, and I'm talking to a group of people who just aren't associated with teachers, they're fascinated.
Yes.
It's an interesting job, because you deal with chaos. That's all it is.
Right. As I explained to someone the other day, being personally responsible for what 30 teenagers are doing all at the same time is it's a mind challenging thing, because you're trying to focus possibly on one person that's asking you a specific question while others are working independently, but you also have to make sure you don't see that kid stick a pencil through the other kid's eye or ear, or all of a sudden, some kid goes to the bathroom. I don't know if you, when I first started, keeping track of who's asked to go to the bathroom and whether or not they've come back. I remember an administrator calling me on that my first year. He's like, and he was doing an observation.
Oh, no.
And he's like, did you realize that 3 kids were out of the bathroom at once? I'm like,
I had no idea. I knew that I was being observed, and I was nervous about like someone judging me on how good I was teaching. And so when some kids say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" I just said yes.
Because your first year teaching is such chaos anyway.
And being able to keep track of all those things. So
Oh, yeah.
now I've got that figured out. My pass hangs on the door, and if someone says, "Can I go to the bathroom?" and I look at the door and I don't see the pass, I go no. And if I see the pass, then I say yes. And it's that simple.
Right. So for anybody who ever went to school and wondered why does the teacher need us to use a pass, it's because we're idiots.
Also because 1 out of 50 kids will like just wander the halls randomly, and so now there has to be some kind of accountability tool to go, why are you out in the hall? And then so there's
Pretty
supposed
sure
to be
there's
a
still a
pass.
percentage higher than that.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Did you ever have a kid? It didn't happen to me that he had stolen my pass.
Oh,
but
no.
But have you known of kids that have stolen passes?
No, not off the top of my head. I always make weird passes.
Yeah.
And, like, that's why teachers do that, too. I know one teacher friend who literally made a giant, like, man-sized pencil.
Nice.
And that's their bathroom pass. So, like, I would make, like, ties as my bathroom passes, because then it's just something you put on and hopefully not get urine on.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I've ever seen that. I didn't.
I had a kid that came to my class, like, 30 minutes late. I'm like, where were you? He was like, I was with Mr. So-and-so, the administrator. And I'm like, I happen to have them on my phone. I said, were you with so-and-so? And he's like, I saw him for about 5 minutes. He said he had a pass. I said, I assumed it was from you. That year they had issued us, like 8 by 11. It had your room number on it and a name on it. It was laminated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he decided one of his teachers, he would just take that pass, fold it up, keep it in his back pocket, and then
keep it forever?
Keep it forever. Anytime he he could wander around school and just wave it at whoever was giving him a hard time.
I mean, that's pretty smart.
Yeah. We caught him, and I took the pass. Let's talk about why we became a teacher. So you can go first. Tell us why you became a teacher as opposed to a lumberjack.
Oh, the money,
uh-huh.
the fame, the parties.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I became a teacher because number one, my personality can't fit with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very inconsistent person. I don't mean that as like an irresponsible thing. I mean, if you give me a task to do and tell me to do it 5 times, I'm going to do it different every single time. Like, that's just the kind of person I am. And so I can't have a job where I'm just repeating the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just constantly putting in spreadsheets or constantly answering phones. I go nuts.
Okay.
So I needed something that was just weird and different, and teaching is about as far as it gets.
So how different is when you teach the same lesson to three blocks? Do you have one prep or multiple preps?
I have 2 preps. Yeah, I teach 2 different classes. Right now.
When you teach the same thing twice in one day, how much does that end up being different?
Oh, it's very different almost every time. Yeah. So I'll keep like certain shades of it. It's like when a band covers a song. Like you get the same chorus, but the rest of it changes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I can't keep it consistent, and then like I'll see the kids and see the reactions. And start to adjust things as I'm going along too, which makes me a better teacher and makes me worse at everything else.
Right.
Because if I need to tell the same thing to 3 different people and they all get a different story, that's just bad. That's how you ruin birthday party plans.
As a person, we all have our stories that we tell, like maybe from childhood or something that happened recently, like some incident happened at the grocery store while you're on vacation, and you end up telling it to like 7 or 8 different friends.
Right.
Do you personally try and vary it each time you tell it when you do that? Or do you end up like hitting the same beats when you do that?
So it grows and evolves. Yeah, I listen for the big laughs and then I just repeat those over and over again. But in my mind, it's almost like working out a set for stand-up.
Okay.
Not that I've ever done stand-up, but, it's that same sort of process of, I'm going to start here and then we're just going to see what happens.
Okay.
I'll embellish certain things.
Which related to that, part of the reason I became a teacher, or it wasn't like a reason I became a teacher, but it was like a huge thing that I realized that really made it good for me, is having a captive audience. That if I want to just tell a story that I want to tell, well, guess what? You guys are going to sit here and hear what my kid did on the weekend or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I try to keep it like under 3 minutes, but I'm like, hey, let me tell you what happened when I was in blah, 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 And I'm known, I think, for telling stories in my class. And I'm very tangential and not to like try and belittle ADD, but I don't think I'm full-blown ADD, but I do like very easily, something reminds me of something, and so I will like pause in the middle of something and just a word will set me off, and I'm like, let me tell you about like this that happened to me here, but then I'll try it back to that word that's relevant to what we're teaching. Oh, FYI, we mentioned this, but Tedisco teaches English and I teach math. So.
Oh yes, very different subjects. All right,
Right.
so I'm curious. Like I know what drew me to English. Like I love poetry. I love reading. I love exploring those themes with students and getting them to think more about their lives and write about their lives. So what drew you to math? Like that's an interesting topic to feel passionate about.
Honestly, a big part of it is natural ability. Like, I was always good at math. I just see how numbers work. I was always able to do well at math. It always just came naturally to me. And I liked it. I enjoyed, like, the puzzly aspect of it and trying to figure out how things work. So it was more like that. And also, I guess kind of related, kind of how I became a teacher. I went to college the first time and I was not mature enough for college and I flunked out. I don't know if I've shared that with you or not.
What?
Yes, I was.
No.
You get a letter and this just in, if you've never gotten this letter, because there's always political correctness, even back in 1989. Okay, it said, that
was a good year.
William Thomas Mealy, you have been academically dismissed from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, a school in Western Pennsylvania. So I was academically dismissed because basically I just didn't go to class.
That's a good reason.
I would stay up late at night, not always like, oh, were you partying? I'm like, did I go to parties? Yes. But sometimes I was just watching TV and I didn't feel like going to class. And then after you haven't been to class like 5 times, it's very humiliating to go back. Because you're going to have to see this professor and you can have no real good explanation for why you've not been there for 2 or 3 weeks.
No.
So you just don't go. And then now it's been 4 weeks and now it's even harder to go back and it snowballs and then you get a letter that says you're academically dismissed.
Oh,
so years later, I had a neighbor.
Your students must love that story.
Yeah, I don't tell. I didn't feel comfortable telling it when I first started teaching, but this is my 9th year. I feel a little bit better about teaching it because it is relevant, and I think for kids that are struggling, it's okay to fail, it's okay to mess up, and there's second and third and fourth chances for everybody. So feel
Hear
free.
That, kids, fail out of college.
Yes.
All right, so what did you do then?
So I did lots of different things. I had a lot of dead-end jobs. I was a telemarketer. I worked in...
This is dead end.
Well, there's not a lot of money being made in telemarketing.
Oh, okay.
I also, years ago, for those of you that are older, and maybe there's still people doing this, I don't know, a survey taker in the malls for market research.
Oh.
So I held a clipboard and would just, I called it asking stupid people stupid questions. So I would,
Those are 2 brutal jobs.
What do you think about these socks? So then eventually, and there are 4 different kinds of socks. Well, these are slightly softer. I don't know. Okay, cool. Here's $5. Appreciate you helping us out. So then eventually I became a bugman. At some point we might get into that. And then I was in heating and air for 10 years, making ductwork, stuff like that. So the bugman, I've killed literally millions of roaches. I've been in every unit of public housing in Charlotte, North Carolina, and quite a few other cities, Charleston, Kinston, North Carolina. So, yes. But killing bugs is a lot of fun. It's really, really cool. This is obviously not a visual thing, but there's a really nice thing where you have this little skinny straw, and it sticks up behind a cabinet, and literally you can make it rain roaches down onto the counter, the roaches that you wouldn't see. So I've seen roach waterfalls before where they were just pouring off the cabinets.
I'm going to take a quick break so I can go vomit forever.
Anyway, so I had a neighbor that was, she had going back to school. Okay, I don't know what her whole story was, but she was going back to school. And so she was at the local community college, and she had some homework to do, and we were friendly. And so she came over and said, I've got this homework, and what can you help me with it? And I looked at it, and I just there were some examples in the textbook or whatever, and I started explaining it to her, and she got it. And I call this, and I do share this with my kids, and it's probably not the best thing to share. So that aha moment, when kids get that aha moment and that light bulb goes on, I call that teacher crack.
But seriously, that's the greatest feeling in the world.
It is. And it lasts about 2 minutes and you need another hit.
The greatest sound on the planet is just hearing a bunch of kids go,
oh, I get it.
That's
what it is. That's why we do it. But like I said, how long does that feeling last?
Not long.
Right. So you got to get another one, right? So I call that teacher crack. But anyway, but she got it. And then these words, and they still, and it's been 15, 20 years since this happened. Well, more than that, I guess. So she said to me, you explain that better than my teacher. And then so inside me I'm like, maybe I should become a teacher, And now, true story, my dad taught for 38 years. My mom was an elementary school teacher for a couple of years before she got married, because back then you just like had babies and were a housewife. My cousin is a teacher. My brother is kind of a teacher. He teaches phys ed. I don't know if that counts or not.
That counts.
And my grandmother, on my mom's side, was a teacher, and I have a cousin who is a teacher, and she actually married someone who was a teacher as well. So
that's so strange to
there's
me.
lots of teachers in my blood.
There's no teachers in my family. My sister was a teacher for a little bit, and then decided she wanted what's it called? Money.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot what the word was. I'm just so distant from it. Everybody else in my family, most of them are medical, but that's interesting.
Yes. And then, and this is not a Christian podcast, but I got born again. I went to a conference. There was a huge mega church pastor named Bishop T.D. Jakes. You may or may not have heard of him. He's in Texas. He's got a giant church. Deion Sanders goes to his church, and Emmitt Smith, and a lot of Cowboys because he's in Dallas, and other famous people.
Sports ball people.
They are sports ball people.
Cool.
And anyway, so he had this conference, and there was this guy who was a motivational speaker who was at the conference. His name is Les Brown, and his band of renown. This is a motivational speaker who at one point was married to Gladys Knight of Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Yeah.
And he told his story of when he was labeled educable mentally retarded. He had a teacher who really inspired him, and he ends up now he's like a motivational speaker. Like he charges like Coca-Cola. This is years ago when he was saying this. He's like he charged like Coca-Cola like $100K just to like speak to like them for like 1 hour.
Must be nice.
He talked
But
about
that's awesome.
He talked about finding what it is that you really should be doing that you're not actually doing, and kind of gave us like some tips and tools and stuff that were actionable. And so I walked out of that conference saying, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to become a math teacher. Now, it literally took me about 10 more years to do it because I nickel and dime my way, and I got married along the way and had kids along the way. And then like online education finally was just starting to come into being, and I did do some research to find a school where I could do it, so I could go to school online at night.
Were you still doing the pest stuff while you were?
At that point, I was in heating.
Oh, you were doing the HVAC?
I was doing the HVAC stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And not telling them, because if you told them that you were studying something outside of HVAC, there was a decent chance that they would like say, well, he's not going to be here that long, so we'll fire you. So I could never tell anyone that I was working with.
Oh, wow.
You know, like who I was like friends with. You know what I mean? You
Your
work still for like 5 years.
Life of being
Right.
HVAC by day, math teacher by night.
Yeah. So that's kind of, so then I finished my degree and all that. Actually, this is barely interesting, but the recession helped me.
This is
Because due to the recession, I got laid off. So yay! But the cool thing was, Congress kept on extending unemployment.
I was about to say, yeah, then you get unemployment for
So
that.
I got unemployment. So my wife took she had been working part-time because we were raising kids, so she went back to work full-time to kind of be like the good wife and help me do this. So so they kept on extending unemployment, because when I was going back to school at night, I'm like, how am I going to pay a mortgage, have a kid, and do student teaching, which is basically 4 months of you can't do anything else but student teach when you're student teaching.
Oh yeah, no.
So I was able to
12-hour days for me.
Right, I was able to collect unemployment while I was student teaching and complete my degree.
Awesome.
So then I ended up then getting a job teaching.
The recession didn't help me. I graduated. Oh geez, what year did I graduate? I graduated in the year it was 2000. I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was 2010 that I graduated college, because then but that was like right in the recession. And so I'm from New York. Up in New York, they kept like closing and consolidating schools.
Yes.
And so no teaching jobs.
Definitely not for inexperienced English teachers.
Right. Yeah.
Of which there's like
a lot of people seem to know English in
Right.
America. Not a whole lot of demand.
Yeah.
So I even like knew a couple principals at like big districts, and they're like, we can get you sub work.
Nice.
And that was it.
Wow. So is that what brought you down to North Kakalaki? We call it North Kakalaki down here.
I call it Crackalacka.
Do you?
North Crackalacka. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a friend.
And I'll tell a North Kakalaki story after you get done yours, okay?
All right. I had a friend who, her parents like had a home down here, and so she'd come on vacation when she was young, and she was also a teacher, so she wound up coming down here to teach, and we went to college together. So she said, "Why don't you come on down? You can, save me." And it was her and her husband, and she's like, "Yeah, you can crash on our couch till you find a place, and if you find a job." And I had 2 interviews here. I was absolutely laughed out of the first one.
Nice.
It was bad. And then the second one, I actually knew what to do, and I got hired on the spot. Yeah.
By the way, this just in. Interviewing, good interviewer, good teacher, there's a teeny tiny correlation there.
Oh my goodness.
Because you can come in, you can speak jargon and say all these things, and then you are just a hot mess of garbage in the classroom.
Right.
But you might be, like, not the most professional, polished person when you are in the interview, but in the classroom, you have that connection with those kids, you have that passion about your subject, and you, like, kids are learning in your classroom.
Good point, because there's a big difference. In an interview, it's about being able to talk to professional adults. The totally opposite skill is being able to talk to a bunch of kids.
So, you, like, what you do in the interview is not at all what you do.
All right.
So the North Kakalaki story?
North Kakalaki, and
So
then I
move
think
down-
we got to take a break.
So moved down here, heard North Kakalaki, thought that was hysterical. And South Kakalaki, so I'm like, oh, okay, that's what we call it down here. I go up north, and I have a cousin. She's got a young son. And so I'm talking to him, you know, and he's like, oh, where do you live, you know? I'm cousin Billy to him, okay? Where you live, cousin Billy? I was, oh, I live in North Kakalaki. So elementary school teachers, you know this. Do you know about the Flat Stanley project that they give elementary school teachers?
I know Flat Stanley.
Flat Stanley. So Flat Stanley is a book, and Flat Stanley has like these adventures.
Right.
So very often, Flat Stanley is given to people to you give it to a relative that lives far away, and they take Flat Stanley and take pictures or just
Bring
like
them
that.
around the world.
Right, and then send it back to you
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So this kid, his name's Andrew. He's a grown up now. The teacher says, "So where does your farthest relative live?" Andrew, being second grader, says, "North Kakalaki." Which the teacher has no idea
No.
what that is. Because they're in Pennsylvania, and they've never heard of North Kakalaki.
It's an impressive level of teacher when you can embarrass a student from hundreds of miles away.
My cousin gets an email or phone call from the parent, from the teacher saying, Andrew says his furthest relative lives in North Kakalaki. Can you help me out with this?
Why?
So it's always good to tell kids, like, wrong things, okay?
Yes, I give them wrong information all the time.
Yes, I love it. I say, kids, please go get a calculator. And then the kid says to me, Mr. Mealy, isn't it calculator? I go, oh, that is what ignorant people say. I said, please say calculator in here. We are educated.
I did once convince an entire classroom, and this was mean, that naive isn't in the dictionary because it's French.
Nice.
And one day they're going to get that joke.
Nice.
30 people are just going to go, oh, shoot. And I hope they just hate me for it. I think that's the goal.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I think we need to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we will come back for the rest.
Okay, when we stopped recording, we thought we were going to take a break and had more stuff to get to, and we decided that what we gotten was enough of an episode. So that is the end of episode 1. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for downloading. Thanks again for subscribing so you can hear all of our funny episodes, and thank you again for giving us 5-star ratings, and thank you for sharing with everybody you meet. Hey, if you want to contact us, we're old school. We don't have the social media yet, so just email us at unprofessionaldevelopmentcast@gmail.com. I'm going to put that in the show notes. And tell us what you want or what you like, or if you know a teacher with funny stories that could be a guest, like our guest next week that we're going to give you just a teeny tiny taste of. Thank you, and stay unprofessional.
But today, in that lesson, things were going like gangbusters. I mean, the bubbles were coming out of the tube. And I was like, what the heck is happening? Like, it never happens like this. And so I'm really confused because, of course, the data they're getting, they're like, everything's the same. Everything's the same, right? And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So then, like, they're still like, not... Professor Science, our hands are starting to burn. They're starting to burn. And I'm like, what is going on?